I think this is the first light that when I started trying it, I didn't like it very much, but at the end, I started loving it. Let me explain. Typically, powerful 500 watt video lights are usually immensely expensive and reserved for professionals with a lot more budget. But GVM released a brand new light called the GVM 500 watt ARO, which is aimed towards budget-friendly photographers, or budget-conscious photographers, or creators. And that light you can find for as low as $379 on discount. Now you gotta wonder, what kind of sacrifices had to be made to get this 500 watt LED light in a really affordable package? Let's see by doing a very light comparison between not one, but two other 500 watt lights. Hi, my name is Evans and I'm a hybrid creator based out of Montreal, Canada. Affordability usually rhymes with less features. To better understand what we're dealing with here, or what are we actually lighting here with here, we will compare feature by feature the GVM SD500B ARO LED light. For this demonstration, I'll be using another GVM light, which is a GVM 500 watt light, the GVM SD500B Pro, which I reviewed in another video that you can catch actually here, or linked below, wherever you choose. Plus, we're gonna add the Nanlite FC-500B. That's basically an equivalent budget light from Nanlite. So before you comment below with all your rage, you notice that the price have a little discrepancy and one will be actually more comparable to the other. My goal here is to simply make it clear that some things have to be removed from this affordable package to make it that affordable. A few notes before we start. I did receive this unit for free, meaning I didn't pay for it. It was sent to me for comparison and review. No money was exchanged between me and GVM did not get to see this video before you did. Now let's start with the basics. What's in the box? So the Nanlite FC-500B LED light comes with a carrying case, a power supply, DC and AC cable, and a standard silver reflector, the 7-inch kind. The GVM SD500B Pro comes with a carrying case, a power supply, with controls of course, DC and AC cable, and another standard reflector. We get a little more with the power supply than the Nanlite. The GVM SD500B ARO does not come with a carrying case, does not have an external power supply. My version had no DC input, but of course add an AC input or else it wouldn't work. And surprisingly, this unit also comes with a long throw reflector, which is very surprising. Some sacrifices had to be made, but some things were gained also. So how does that impact you for your shoot? For context, and I think that most of the people watching here will be in that context also, I'm not a big user of DC connectors since my sets aren't that complicated or dynamic enough to require a DMX setup or a board. I typically rely heavily on the app and my little jazz hands. When I first started to look at the 500 ARO from GVM, I realized there was no input for DMX, not even a simple microphone one, which is surprising. I did reach out to GVM with who sent it to me for this unit for review, and they told me that the review unit that I currently have in my hands, or my own copy of the ARO, does not feature DMX, but in their own words, subsequent products will update the DMX firmware. Currently, this model does not have DMX and requires additional accessories to use. So anytime you want the ARO integrated into the panel or your DMX panel, it simply won't be connected natively to the rest by DMX. I also could not find the exact accessory that's been referred to by the supplier. So I'll update the comments as soon as I can or as I know more about this mysterious DMX accessory for the 500 ARO. In a nutshell, if DMX is a crucial component of your work, or it'll be in the near future, as you may think about it in the future, the ARO might not be for you. Another point of contention, or a negative, is, so I've brought the ARO as a test and the GVM 500 Pro on a podcast lighting job, and not having a carrying case is annoying. The box itself is a simple shipping card box, and it's using a packaging type of foam in order to place the light. So if you're often lighting on location or on different locations every time you shoot and you're interested into that light, you might have to shop also for a case, which does not exist yet for the GVM. And I made a mention to GVM that it should probably be offered and maybe in a separate bag. I asked. Well, thankfully, even though there's no bag, the 500 ARO works with an app, which is the GVM Link. And there's a caveat. The GVM Link is a different app from the Pro series, the GVM LED app. I hate to admit it, but it took me like a couple of minutes to figure this out. I desperately was trying to get the thing to work with the app, and it was just not working. I tried adding both lights onto the other apps, but no avail. So if you're thinking of mixing and matching, let's say you already have the Pro series and you want to mix and match using the cheaper ARO, it won't work on the same app. You'll have to open two different apps, which is not super long, but a bit annoying. So from the app, you have control of the lights to projects similar to the Nanlite and scenes. Basically, you can group them into little groups, so you can actually your project already pre-built into your app. The connection to the unit was fast, and the app and light are super responsive. In the GVM Link app, though, you can pre-program some setups already. So, for example, you already have your color temperature and your lighting power. It can predetermine very quickly with fast switching buttons. That is, if your set needs that kind of speed. The integration issue did not occur with Nanlite, as I'm able to connect all my small lights, like the Forza 60B, which is actually here. I'll open in a second. Which is actually giving me a great group control over whatever I'm doing in the same environment. For a big fan of FX, yes, you have FX settings. You can use the app or the back panel to set up your favorite fire setup or your thunderous lighting effect that you may do for your little movie. That's terrifying. All three Nanlites, the FC500B, the GVM SD500B ARO, and the SD500B Pro, have the similar 12 FX models, as you can see on screen right now. They can all be modified via the app, either to add colors, warmth, power, etc., and speed, but the screen is a little different. I would say that in all the three, it's pretty much on par for FX alone. No standout here. So if you're a big back of the panel or operator, the back of the screen of the ARO is pretty much bare bones with 2 buttons and 4 menu options. The first screen lets you change the basic CCT power, which is the color correct temperature, and color via clicking the wheeled button. Both the GVM and the Nanlite offers a back panel and 0.1 increments for perfectly tuning in your light if ever you are extremely demanding. To access the previously mentioned FX features via the back of the ARO, you need to press and hold the wheel menu button. It's a little tricky at first, again, I was a little confused, but again, easy to remember after you know about it. The menu is accessible via a dedicated settings and back buttons, and you have very little options to play with in that range. The menu for the Nanlite, though, is a little more details with 4 buttons allowing for direct input. The GVM, though, Pro has a myriad of features and loads of buttons, and it's really great, which makes it clearly the superior choice, the GVM Pro, as the control panel is detached from the head itself, which makes it really easy to have access to from the ground, basically. So if your light is perched up and you want to change something and you don't have access to the app for whatever reason, this is on the ground and the thing is in the air, well, you're winning. But if I have to say Nanlite versus the GVM on the lower case model, which is better to control power, I would say the Nanlite wins here, as someone without much experience or is a little stressed out can access what he wants faster and without thinking much, in my opinion. And now that you know how we can operate this light, how is actually the power? As of output, I probably mentioned it, but the ARO is a bi-color light. The previous measurements of the Nanlite FC-500B is 16,000 lux at full power at daylight 5600K. Same for the GVM 500 Pro. And the question now is, did they make a sacrifice here? And what would it be for the GVM 500 ARO? As you can see from this chart. So the results here are kind of surprising. We're getting a result of 1,000 from my new test at 10% power compared to 13,000 for the Nanlite, which is good. In the ARO, we get a little more power at the lowest level, which I measured, which is 10% at 1800 lux compared to 14,000 at the top level, or 100%. If we compare these two results against the GVM Pro, we get 1200 at 10% and 14,000 at the top level. Again, these are within range of each other. Again, this might be a bit of margin of error from this Iconic. I changed the batteries. It was a fresh set. So why did it change over time? No one knows, maybe the lighting changed a little bit, but again, it still holds within that parameter. And again, using the arrow surprisingly will give you as much power as the maximum output as the other two, which is good. So all the numbers I mentioned previously was done with the standard reflector, but when you're adding the long throw reflector that actually comes with the arrow, the power is just simply ridiculous. We're getting as much as twice as much power as we would so with a standard reflector with the long throw reflector that's included into the arrow. So if ever you're in a bind and you really need that much more kick, that 500 watt will go really far with that long throw reflector. The range of the GVM 500 ARO is a warm 2700K to a cool 6800K, which is a standard basically range for colors in the LED market. So I just left testing again the GVM ARO against the Nanlite just to see the color stability of the GVM ARO. So in terms of color, it's very good actually. So I tested the entire range between 2700K and 6800K, which is the maximum color range you can get with the arrow. And in terms of stability or in terms of comparison, again, according to the data color light color, it's very good. So if I compare, let's say 2700K, the results I get for the GVM arrow, again, which is a discount light, it's 2740K with a little shift towards the green of 1/8. If I just look throughout the range, as you can see also on screen, I'm looking at 5600K, which is maybe the most important range because it's daylight. I get 5630K, again with zero shift of green or magenta. It's basically fairly accurate. And also at the top of the range of colors, or the lowest, the coolest, I get 6800 Kelvin, again with, that's what I set on the light. And then my measurement gives me 6770K with a little green shift of 1/8. Again, this is really good. Again, we're talking about a very affordable light. But what really threw me off a little bit is the power. So I tested the GVM with its long throw reflector, and just to make sure I got my numbers from the previous reading right. So this one again is using the data color light color. Again, it gives me also a color reading, so I took advantage of it and I said, you know what, let me do color and lux at the same time. So 10% the GVM arrow with a long throw reflector gives me, as you can see on screen again, 4360 lux, which is very powerful for a very low range. This is equivalent to 40% power on the Nanlite. Crazy. And I just went through all the range, and again the color is very stable. It doesn't really shift between 5600K, not by too much. It's within acceptable range. If I compare then the Nanlite, which again we have to say is several years old, so it's not as recent as the Arrow, which is again not even out yet. The Nanlite with the long reflector, I just basically took the long reflector that was on the GVM and then placed it on the Nanlite. It gives me odd numbers. So an example, I got 1210 for the 10%, which is, again, if I compare one to the other, it looks like... So if I compare the Nanlite information about lux, if I compare them for this using this iconic against the data color, they're similar, but again, the story is a little weird because the amount of power I get from the GVM Arrow with its long throw reflector is mind-boggling. So the Nanlite at its lowest power gives me 1210 with a long reflector, and if I compare it again with the if I compare it again with 5600 Kelvin, again using at 10% power, I get 1400 using this iconic, and I get 1210 for the data color. Again, there's similar range, conditions might change a little bit, but it gives you an indication of what it is. Now, if I go towards the end of the range, which is again more insane, the GVM at 100% gives me 31,100 lux with its long throw reflector. And if I compare against the Nanlite at the same power level, again using the same reflector, which is supposed to help, without the reflector, it's actually more efficient. So without the reflector, that's like the long throw reflector, just a simple regular reflector, 13,600 as terms of lux compared to using the long reflector, which is 11,600. Again, I'm very confused about why is that more efficient. I believe it's in the construction of the LED chips. I think the Arrow really improved in the way it's done. As you can see, there's like a little embedded mirror maybe, or reflecting panels inside the light that makes it just throw way, way more light. And also it is scarily accurate. Again, I set the light to be at 5600K and it gave me a reading of 5570K with no shift in green or magenta. If I compare that against the Nanlite with the long to the reflector, I get wacky reading with like 6000 and like more of reading, which is like a big shift of 400 Kelvin, which is pretty crazy. So in terms of just pure accuracy and power, the GVM just like trounces the Nanlite. But again, we have to mention that ARO is very recent and Nanlite is a little older. But manually handling this machine is something that's really interesting to discuss. And that's one of the features I was really most curious about because of the promise of the ARO. So because of the all-in-one design feature of the 500B ARO, it's massive. I mean, just take a look at it compared to the other two. I know it won't sound fair, but the head alone is 6.65 kilograms or 14.66 pounds compared to the 12.4 or 5.6 kilograms for the Nanlite. Adding the power supply balances things out as you can see on screen, but if your application needs like lightweight and power, and because everything is compact into one little crammy option, you have to weigh your options. Pun intended. The power supply of the Nanlite makes it interesting as you have a cheap, basically counterweight, not super effective, but it's still there and makes the head much lighter, but no controls over the power supply from the ground. Negative. But I guess now with Bluetooth and all the companionship, using the proprietary apps solves all of this. And if you want a side-by-side comparison of all the units with other reflectors, this overhead shot of all the three units altogether tells the story of an all-in-one solution versus a power supply not attached to the head. Size matters, but overall, what does really matter when reviewing this unit? In sum, what should you get? All that's been said about the light, again, I came into this light really not liking it. I didn't like the quality of life of not having a carrying bag. I was questioning the long throw reflector and all the V stuff. But after using it after an extensive period of time, I'm starting to think that this is maybe the best pound for pound light I've ever tried. Let me explain. So in terms of power, again, this is outkicking every single light I've demonstrated here in this demonstration. Again, there are other, like many other manufacturers of 500 watt lights, but as of now, with the ones I tried, even compared to the Pro version, if I had to buy one, maybe I would go with the ARO if your needs are not DMX related or it's like super high end. Again, I think you can do a lot of things with this without having to throw away the bank. And again, with the power, the color accuracy, and the pricing, which makes it really incredible. I think this is one of the lights that I can actually recommend to people without any hesitation. Is there anything I missed in this video? Anything that you'd like to discuss? If so, let me know in the comments. Again, this has been Events B, and I thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing if you haven't done so already, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.